Rich Anderson. Rich Anderson, former House of Delegates member, retired Air Force colonel, now a very viable, and I'm going to say now leading candidate for Republican Party of Virginia chairman. Of course, we have no idea when there'll be a convention to name a new chairman because they're having a bunch of meetings on it now, and he is joining us now. Rich Anderson, great to have you with us, man.
And great to be with you. You're on the road again.
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey. I'll be here for 3 days, and then we'll figure out where we're going after that. But, Rich, you're running for chairman. I've been bitterly disappointed with the fact that there's no Republican opposition. You, on the other hand, are putting a press release out today at 9 a.m. that I got an advanced copy of that I got to tell you is spot on. You want to share that with our audience?
Well, we're about to do a blast email and a press release today simply because of all the developments that we had yesterday in the Commonwealth. We actually had two shoes fall. One was very loud with a thud. The other was quieter, but nonetheless with significant impact. And that's the basis of my communication today with the with folks who are supporting us all across the state for the chairmanship of the Republican Party of Virginia. The first shoe that fell that was really a thud and people heard was, of course, the governor's announcement that he would require face coverings inside places where people congregate. There's a whole list of them, few exceptions. The most major one is kids under 10 don't have to wear a mask, but nonetheless, it's just another step where he has taken an assumption of unprecedented authority, and he hasn't got squat in the way of constitutional authority to do so. So it's invalid. Now, I think people need to be safe. People need to exercise caution. To be quite honest with you, John, Rich Anderson goes into a grocery store. I have a mask hanging on my rearview mirror. I put it on. I go in. It's close quarters. But I do not need the overreaching hand of state government to tell me that I must do that. He has announced, of course, I know you know this, but he's announced that no law enforcement authorities will be enforcing that. That will belong to the Virginia Department of Health through their licensing process. But he also signaled in that press conference yesterday that when the General Assembly comes back into special session later this year, because they have a lot of unfinished business from this unproductive session earlier this year, that they may seek legislation to allow civil fines for citizens who don't wear masks. My whole point with all this is I think people are pretty good about complying with these requirements, with safety requirements, but leave that up to them to do. Educate them, use your bully pulpit to encourage them, to lead them, to motivate them, but not to compel them. And so that's the first thud that found itself sounding across the Commonwealth. The second was the fact that there was an announcement out of Republican Party of Virginia headquarters yesterday that they have now appointed roughly a 12-person committee that's going to meet over the next month and make a determination about the location and dates for the quadrennial Republican Party of Virginia conference. And so that a month from now, this work should have been done 2 months ago when we had good, solid, predictive signals that there were going to be difficulties in getting a venue. So we are at a place right now where there is no date or venue set for the RPV state convention in order to do a lot of business and elect state party leaders. We have got to do that. We've got to move out. I keep using this term, but we have got to develop the agility to move on the political and policy battlefield. That ain't happening. And that's kind of the message of what I'm going to say to people today. We got to get up. We got to move. We got to fight.
I love what you're saying, Rich. I'm looking for action, not more meetings. The memo that Jack Wilson sent out yesterday was to put Nancy Dye, who's a wonderful lady, in charge of a meeting, to have a meeting, to then have a meeting to decide on having a meeting. Okay? Meantime, Rome is burning, and we're talking about having 5 meetings to decide when to have a meeting. I mean, there were so many meetings in that memo, my head spun. I had to stop reading it. Okay? And look, this isn't they're all nice people. I love Nancy Dye. I'm all for meetings. Right now, though, we need action. If you're chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia right now, today, at 7:17 a.m. May 27th. Would you have a press conference on this mask order, yes or no?
Of course I would. I probably wouldn't do it at 7:17. I'd probably do it at 9 a.m., but you darn tootin' I would be doing it because the party's job is to fight, and it's to lead the fight, and it's to take the troops onto the battlefield. And the troops are those volunteer, grassroots Republicans all across the state who, like grassroots workers from either party, are the ones that do the hard and important work of winning elections. So, yes, I think that it's very important. We do not message as a party in this Commonwealth. And messaging is so important towards shaping public opinion that it is a vital necessity for us to do that. We are not doing that.
Let me just read something that Rich Anderson said. Rich, running for chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia. Right now, there really isn't a party. It's a postal permit and a Mr. Coffee pot from 1975 in a beeper. He says, most disturbing, Ralph Northam signaled that he may seek legislation this summer to allow for civil fines for citizens who don't wear masks. So let me get this straight. We're going to have a special session of the legislature on our dime to pass a law to fine us for not wearing a mask, to pay them their salary. What planet do I live on?
Well, it's one orbiting the sun at a very far distance, that's for sure. This is absolutely counter to the American tradition. Again, I come back to what I said before. Governors and presidents have an immense bully pulpit to convince people. I cannot see during World War II, and this does not compare to World War II. This is a virus. This is not the continued existence of the Western Hemisphere as we know it. But during World War II, so much was done by Franklin Roosevelt as president and commander-in-chief, and it didn't involve these petty dictator efforts to compel people to do things. He used the power of his office, the power of his personality, and the power of his bullpit to lead people in the correct direction. Now, I live here in Northern Virginia in Prince William County, and I have been very impressed as I go into areas of congregation, and by that I mean principally grocery stores, Walmart, Lowe's. People are very disciplined about wearing a mask. There are a few who don't, but a significant majority are wearing it. So without this compelling edict from Richmond, from the governor's mansion, we can still do this.
I agree with you 100%, Rich. To me, we're setting a very dangerous precedent. And if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. You don't want to wear a mask, don't. I mean, that's your decision. But in your letter, you go on to say, it's time for citizens everywhere to resist this intrusive overreach by the strong arm of government. It is time for non-violent and peaceful civil disobedience in the time-honored tradition of our Constitutional Republic. Let me read you again what Rich Anderson said in his letter, okay? It is time for non-violent and peaceful civil disobedience in the time-honored tradition of our Constitutional Republic. It is time for lawsuits and the rule of law in our courts. It is time for intervention by the United States Department of Justice. It is time to challenge these enemies of freedom on the battlefield of public policy. You are the first Republican in Virginia that I have talked to publicly say that you will stand and fight. Let me just read the end again. It is time to challenge these enemies of freedom on the battlefield of public policy.
True. What those very words that you just read are time-honored, cherished, traditional American calls to action for the right and for the left and everybody in between. It's been an important part of the fabric of our nation's history, and it's what we have to do today. And I emphasize nonviolent, peaceful, but firm resistance that is as firm as the finest steel forged in the hottest fire. And for those on the left who wish to push back on my statement that we need to resist, I would remind them that they, over the last 4 years, have forged one of the dirtiest, most aggressive, most un-American resistance movements to forward movement for this country, to the point of harassing public officials and candidates and a whole array of things that are simply a resistance not like the one that I feel we need to employ. Theirs is of a different type, and in various places has turned violent.
John Fredericks Radio Network back with Rich Anderson. Rich running for chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia is putting out a scathing press release today calling for action, and that'll go out at 9 o'clock. I'm encouraging to send that not only as a letter to the number of delegates that he has a list of now, but also should go, I think, to the media and as a general press release. It's that well written. I'm going to steal some of it, Rich, if you don't mind. But let's just go through this now. What the Republican Party of Virginia, they're supposed to have a convention. I think they should have it in July, but they're now saying that maybe there's not going to be one until December. What's the plan here?
Well, right now, the only plan that exists is to do I think, third or fourth change to the location and venue for our state convention. Admittedly, these are unprecedented times because we have the overreaching hand of a state chief executive that has shut down so many of these venues and with a partisan political purpose. But nonetheless, the plan is they're going to take a month and plan on what they're going to plan. When this should have been done, John, I believe 2 months ago. There is a congregation of people on this committee, and I have no ill will toward either, and I hope to work with these people because we'll need all the able assistance that I can summon in our Commonwealth to lead the effort to rejuvenate this party in a long game. This is going to be a long game. But that said, if you'll recall, we originally were going to have the state convention on May 1st and 2nd in Lynchburg. Something went awry with the arrangements with Liberty University, so it got moved to Richmond, same date, May 1st and 2nd, at the Richmond Convention Center. Then it got moved because of the government-directed shutdowns, intrusion into the private business sector, and lives of people shut down, so therefore it got moved with a placeholder email from the party to the 26th and 27th of June. That can't happen now. In that intervening period, there should have been deep planning on how to do this. And I would postulate that planning should have been done by the incumbent chairman of the party leading the state Central Committee, which is the governing body of the Republican Party of Virginia, through this effort, rather than creating this ad hoc group. All good people. I fault the process, not those people for sure. I wish to work with those people at some point. But the bottom line is they're going to plan. They're supposed to have a plan to the chairman on the 20th of June. My God, almost toward the end of the month for a possible state Central Committee meeting on the 27th of June to decide when the convention will be. And I would postulate that what must happen is in July, in this Commonwealth, in a central location, the Republican Party of Virginia quadrennial convention needs to convene, elect new leadership, and do it with an in-person traditional convention that elects party leaders by majority vote and not by any other mechanism that permits trickery, which is kind of sometimes the byword for a convention environment. And so that's the plan right now. I just think they've got to accelerate it so that we get on track for having a convention in July. I hear that as I talk to people across the state, and one of the other candidates for chairman tells me he's hearing the exact same thing. We need to respond to the grassroots who do this hard work of winning elections.
Rich, I'm out of time, but I'm with you on that. I mean, I think we need to have a convention, and, Jack needs to make his case. I think there's another candidate running. But look, I mean, you're the first one out there that's actually wants to do something, and right now I'm not seeing anything. I mean, the response from the Republicans for this complete blatant violation of our civil rights, which everybody that has any thought into this knows is a precursor to finding a way to take your guns away. is just stunning to me. That I'm in a
Never
party.
let a crisis go to waste. Never.
That's exactly what's happening here. Rich Anderson, people want more information on your campaign. Where do they go? You got a
It's
Facebook page?
www.richanderson.com. I'm on Facebook. It's listed facebook.com/delegate, spelled out, Rich Anderson. This just left over from my delegate days. And before any of my Democratic friends trigger on the use of that, that's what I'm known as, so it's still up there. So go trigger if you must. But that's how you can find me. And, John, if somebody wants to talk to me, just like when I was a delegate in a district of 80,000 people, call my cell phone, 703-282-9653.
John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America.